Culture, a little bit about culture is what I want to ask you to talk about, because I think it's very impressive that you were the first director of diversity at Amazon. So All Out Coach, as you know, at All Out Coach, I talk a lot about company culture, about diversity, inclusion, and not only inclusion by the sense of belonging to your team. If you could just provide some highlights of how you think negotiation and how you think diversity really impacts culture in a business, in an organization, from your experience and your insights.
Well, I think that's a great question, because I feel like negotiation is what people who are underrepresented have to do all the time. They have to negotiate within a culture that doesn't quite know how to support them in the same way it might support the majority culture. And again, this can be on a number of different dimensions. If you're an engineering company and you're a non-technical person, you're underrepresented. If you're in a software development and you're a business intelligence engineer. So underrepresented, I find, is a really good word for understanding, does a company do well by all its employees or just by the majority of its population? And again, that can be defined many different ways. I find what is really interesting is that everybody wants innovation, right? And innovation is invention, creating new things, and they can be very simple. And there's a professor named Linda Hill who studies both innovation and leadership, and has written a book that I think is fantastic for leaders called Collective Genius. And really it gets at, she looks at case studies of very innovative cultures and what do they do consistently. And what do they do consistently is, to your sense of belonging, they make sure everyone in the company has a voice at what happens at the company. And again, they give some very specific examples, but that's really hard to do. And I think that's one of the most critical things, to give people a sense of belonging. So my last role at Amazon, I had everything from PhDs to new college grads on my team. And they were everywhere from Seattle to Costa Rica to South Africa to Japan and India. And thinking through having a team that's that diverse in terms of skill set, in terms of age, in terms of geography, and making sure everyone felt like they understood what the team was doing, they understood how their role contributed to the team's success, and that they had a voice. Like, when you do that, it's magical. It really is. And part of it was going and actually listening to people. Because I can tell you, sitting down with my team in India and watching them go through a process that we had designed in Seattle and realizing it was terrible. It was terrible because we didn't fully appreciate how it would actually work in a specific context. As again, the world kept changing. It may have been designed at some point in the past, but then asking, well, what would you do to correct it? And having these bright minds have all these ideas and feeling freed. Now we're contributing in a different way. And it's really interesting. And you talked about mentoring. I still hear from people from that trip, even though I'm no longer at the company, about how much it impacted them to see a leader come and listen, right? In an area where they were used to a more hierarchical structure, or that's what they expected. So I think that ability to listen, I think for me, diversity and inclusion, and why I pursued that was watching very diverse teams produce unbelievable results, right? So I think, in a corporate setting, it's less about the social good, although I'm a firm believer in the social good of it, but more it's good business. And that, to me, but it's hard. So I think that the paradox of diversity is there's all these amazing benefits, from innovation to better problem solving, catching more mistakes, all of these things, if you can actually achieve diverse teams operating optimally. I think the piece that people forget is a diverse team requires very skillful leadership, because the whole reason you get innovation is the friction of different people's ideas. And if you don't manage that well as a leader, you just get friction of people. And friction of people does not get you anything but people unhappy and people quitting. So I think what the missing piece is, you have to create leaders who know how to lead and manage very diverse teams, and manage the the dialogue and the discourse that will come from people wanting to approach problems very differently. And that part was really exciting to me, because if you can do the work well, the outcome is amazing, both from the business results and how people, to your point, how people engage with the culture. Everybody wants to feel like they're making a contribution, they're having an impact, no matter what their role is and no matter how big the company is.
Yeah.
And if you're a good leader, it's very possible to give people that experience.